Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! ISB!
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard and back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Thanks a lot for being with us. We appreciate you. Hope you had a great weekend and ready for the week. It looks like it's going to be a little rainy today here, at least in central Indiana. Hope it's sun shining wherever you are, though. How's everybody been? Lots to get to on the program today. Mike DeCourcy joining us, Greg Rakestraw, chronic Hoosier. And we'll come up with plenty to talk about as Indiana's college softball. 4 teams from the Big Ten to the big tournament, including Indiana back-to-back. So congratulations to them as they mark that achievement. It's a shame they lost the number 1 player in the country. I forget where she went to. But was bought to go to one of the big boys. Indiana football offers one of the top receivers in Florida. They're already getting a visit from the top recruit in all of football. That just blows my mind. That they're
and on top
able
of that,
to do
what's
that.
interesting about him is that he's already committed to USC, but he's still going on a visit to Indiana and likely other schools too.
Well, he has visits to other schools scheduled, but it's that means that commitment means next to nothing, which is sad, to be honest with you. But it is what it is, but for Indiana to just be in that conversation, to me, is mind-boggling. To my knowledge, they have never, ever in their history had a number 1 recruit visit, or even been in a conversation for a number 1 recruit in the country. But that just shows the growth under Kurt Cignetti already, and it's Tino Sunseri, the coaches, the other coaches. That's what brings those in. So happy to see that grow. Devontae Green chats it up with the guys at the Hoosiers.com, so you can go there and hear that. Still trying to get him on and his schedule to see his feelings, get his feelings on playing in the TBT tournament, the human cheat code. Still 2 spots open for Indiana basketball, which that has gotten to be extraordinarily difficult to fill. And we'll see what happens. Do they fill both spots? I'm not sure. I mean, I think they have to fill one of them. You can't go into a season with 11 scholarship players. They went into that last year with 12, and it can quickly rear its head if you're not at full power. Injuries here and there can pop up at any time. How's everybody doing on the Andy Moore Honda hotline? Appreciate you joining us as always. Donald down in Atlanta, Bob in Georgetown, Brian's in Ellington, Florida. 6'9" UT Martin transfer eyes Issa Muhammad receiving interest from Indiana. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people receiving interest. Not to poo-poo that at all. That's not my intent. We've seen a lot of bigs mentioned in this to fill that final spot, but everybody knows it's as a backup role, and that's the problem, has been getting someone that I think with that in mind, but we shall see. Robert's on there saying, hey, good morning. The truth, Robert, the truth. And then Robert P, no sunshine today, all day. I hear you. Justin B, ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Oh, yeah, what a great song that is. Pete said the kid has a close relationship to one of the assistants, so likely a courtesy call. And which one are you talking about on that one? 5 lefts on board. JB, Justin B says close out the roster. Philip says great Osibor, $2 million NIL to Washington. I find that hard to believe. I don't think that anybody is making $2 million in NIL money. Yeah, I can always be wrong, but that's. Are you talking about the University of Washington?
Yeah, that's where he committed to. He committed to Washington. He followed his coach, Danny Sprinkle, from Utah State to Washington.
He's not getting $2 million. There's no way. Why? How the hell would Washington have $2 million to give to one person in NIL?
Yeah, especially, I'm not saying it is or isn't true because I don't know, but I mean, you're making more than the coach, more than likely, depending on, I mean, especially in a place like Washington for basketball.
You would be making more than any other collegiate player in America. There's no college player getting $2 million in NIL money.
Which a couple of years ago, there was talk of Oscar Tshiebwe at Kentucky that he was getting $2 million, but there was never.
Was not true.
That was never proven.
That was not true at all. But yeah, it's the talk is a lot bigger than the actual numbers. Cheryl on board, how you doing? Philip said, well, yeah, I just find that unbelievably hard to buy. That I just find that unbelievable. Philip saying that again, that that Goodman reported it, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but I just that would be far and away the biggest number any player, and he's not that dominant. I mean, Zach Edey was as dominant as you can be. I mean, he dominated college basketball for 2 years. Dominated. And he didn't get close to that number, I can assure you. And how the hell would Washington have that? That makes no sense. They've had no success in basketball to have that big of a NIL pile. Their football was great, and Michael Penix wasn't making that. Romo Dunze wasn't making that. Romeo, or was it Rome, right? Dunze?
Yeah, Roma Dunze.
Rome, yeah. He wasn't making that, so that just makes zero sense to me. I have a hard time. Philip pointing out, and I should have predicted this. But Iowa women's coach Lisa Bluter retiring yesterday. Of course, you're not going to do much better. She lost her star player in Caitlin Clark, so she probably doesn't have a lot in the cupboard coming this year. Not as far as what they've had, but I pretty much know who their next coach will be if they haven't already announced it. It's that woman who was always yelling on the sideline.
Yeah, they announced it was going to be her assistant. I don't remember her name, but I think it's who you're referring to.
Yeah, it must be. I think she's been an assistant there for a long time. But that'll be interesting. to see if there's a drop off and who takes over as this is an opportunity for Terry Morton and Indiana women's basketball to continue to rise as they have and becoming one of the top players in the Big Ten. And don't forget, next year in every sport, we've got 4 new teams coming into the Big Ten, and Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA, which is going to be interesting in every stretch of the imagination. Football starts right off the bat with football. Indiana goes to UCLA, playing in the Rose Bowl. I've heard a lot of people talking about going to that. So that should be a fun outing, but it's going to be interesting. And Washington comes to play at Indiana. I don't think they have USC on the schedule this year. I'm going by memory right now, but
no, the only time they'll travel out west is UCLA this season.
Yeah, they try to
they'll
minimize
face Washington, but it'll be in Bloomington.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I said. Washington comes here, which was going to be interesting because you would have been Kalen DeBoer, but we all know where Kalen's down at Alabama. Joined us not too long ago.
Instead, it'll be Jed Fish, new head coach.
Jed Fish, who came up from Arizona.
That's right.
Who had a decent run there at Arizona. So all kinds of shakeups. But you've got Indy coming up as well. The Indianapolis 500. What are we? 2 weeks away? What is today?
Yeah, because it's Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. Actually, it's just a week away. A week and a half.
Yeah, so under 2 weeks.
Yeah, a week from this weekend. This weekend, there's a rivals camp in Indianapolis. Football. The AAU will be down in Bryan, Texas. They played in Indy over the weekend. And another good weekend for Indiana Elite. Actually, they only played on Saturday. They didn't want to play all 4 games and resting up for the trip to Texas. But great weekend for the Magical 3. Trent Sisley in the second game led all scorers with, I think, 23 points, scoring in a myriad of ways, inside, outside, knocking down 3-point shots, throwing down alley-oop dunks, showing his skills. And so don't think that Trent Sisley is not one of the tops in the state. He is, along with Braylon Mullins, who his recruitment is going to get bigger. I can promise you that. And of course, Malachi Moreno. We've got lots more coming up, including Mike DeCourcy joining us, Greg Rakestraw, and Chronic Hoosier here on the program today. Back with all of that and more, brought to you by the Autograph app. Don't forget, Autograph is where real fans get unreal rewards. The first app to track and reward fans for loving what they love most, turning passion into access and experiences. Download the Autograph app in either Apple App Store or the Google Play today. Autograph is where unhinged fandom meets unreal rewards. Just go to the link, or actually it's link.ag.fan/ISB Media. Appreciate if you would do that. It helps us out tons. We've got more coming up. Don't forget also Hoosiers at Huber's. That comes up on Wednesday, May 29th. We're only a couple weeks away from that event happening, 2 weeks from tomorrow. All proceeds go to the NIL. You've got head football coach Kurt Signetti, men's basketball coach Mike Woodson, players from Indiana men's and women's basketball programs and the football program. There will be an autograph session afterwards, and the cost has not gone up. It's the same as it has been, $50 an individual, $12.50 for an entire table. The doors open at 6. They'll be lining up before that. I promise you that. Just go to inforindiana.com. Inforindiana.com for Hoosiers and Hubers. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Excuse me, forgot to mute my microphone so I didn't sneeze over the air. Ugh. Go and bring Mike in. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, John.
Welcome to our humble abode once again.
It's me and the empty chair, as usual.
That sounds like the good name for a solo podcast. Or I guess the empty chair, I guess, would be Jim. So it's unintentionally empty at the moment. Me and the empty chair. Jim, you got about 20 seconds.
That would be a great name. That is a funny name. Mike,
right,
how
here we
are you,
go.
sir?
I'm good, Jim. How are you?
I can't complain. What's new?
Here we go. Just a few seconds, guys.
Part of the Wild Food Group is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table. Chop Shop Market and Table, home of the Indiana men's basketball and women's basketball coaches shows, football coaches shows as well, located just north of Bloomington High School on Bloomington High School South on South Walnut. Your local mix shop, steakhouse, and caterer, no matter where you live, just stop in and visit on South Walnut. Welcome in, Mike DeCourcy. Mike, how have you been? How was your weekend, sir?
It was pretty good, Jim. How are you?
I cannot complain. Trying to get rested up. It's been a long run. Doesn't stop. They say AAU and the portal. It's just like an extension of the basketball season that just doesn't stop.
It does not, and that's that can be construed as a good thing. And remember that in past years, in my prime at Sporting News in terms of covering college basketball when that was basically all I did back in the 2005, right around there, 2010, 2015. We shut down after the Final Four. There might be a few straggling coach hires out there to get wrapped up, but that was it. And then no one talked about much of anything until there were times it depended on where the recruiting calendar was. There were times when there were some April tournaments. There was the Bob Gibbons tournament down in Charlotte, but there wasn't much going on until July when everybody would hit the road for recruiting. And now college basketball is in the news from the time we throw the ball in the air the first time until, gosh, at least late May. I mean, because we're already in mid-May, and we've got a lot of guys out there. Yesterday, great Osabor went to Washington to play for Danny Sprinkle, who had been his coach at Utah State. So news continues to pop. That yesterday was May 12th, right? May 13th. So we're in mid-May, and we still have big names changing teams. I think in some ways that's good. I know it's not great for stability, and I know that coaches don't like it, but it's also good for the game to not go into hibernation.
Yeah, it definitely is getting plenty of year-round coverage now. I mean, I made that but a tweet that it's always been year-round in basketball. It's always been year-round in Indiana, but it seems that way everywhere now.
Oh, absolutely. I think that you see between the various transfers that happen, and I know I had a very long discussion about this on Twitter last week. A lot of mid-major programs. It stemmed from a column that I wrote. I had a long discussion with some fans of mid-major teams. I even had a high major college coach call me who was disappointed in the article. Although he acknowledged not having read it, he was disappointed that I would seem to be construed as supporting this circumstance. I'm not necessarily thinking this is ideal, that teams can change, that players can change teams multiple times without having to be absent from the court or whatever. Have to not necessarily pay a penalty, but have to have some restriction on them. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good for the player, and I certainly don't think that's good for the game. Although I do think the one-time transfer exception was a good rule. I do think that you should be able to do that once if that's what you think is best for you. But I don't think it's great for the player to be going from team to team to team to team and over the course of 4 years. I don't think it's good. It can be economically good for them, but I don't think it's good for their development to be doing that. And
they can't be getting a degree. I mean, it's kind of impossible. Look at the single transfers that have had a hard time getting things to transfer. And it's like, how the heck you go to 4 different schools and just magically have it work out?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to finish 4 years with a degree, but if you do it right, you can probably be not that far away. It depends on whether you're doing it right or not. If you're really committing to trying to get in position to graduate. I mean, remember, you as Bob Huggins once said, it's not a race. I mean, he had a time when he was getting criticized for graduation rates under an old standard that made no sense, and he would point to the pictures of the graduates on his wall and say, look, okay, so this guy took 6 years, 8 years, whatever. It didn't matter. He was playing professional basketball and making money and stacking that up so that he could have a good life later on. And then he came back and he finished. And so if players are doing that, then good for them. If they're putting themselves in position to graduate, good. But I don't think that it's good for their basketball development to play for 4 teams in 4 years. I think you need to learn how to grow into a role at a program, and in order to be your best, your coach has to understand what makes you the best. And if that coach is as new to you as you are to your to the new campus, you're not going to ever reach that full level. It just isn't. It's not at that stage of your career. You need that opportunity for a coach to figure out what you do well, what you don't do well, to put you in position to succeed and to work you at the things you don't do well.
Yeah, and Indiana, some of the recruits that they have pulled through the portal have multiple years left, which that doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to be at Indiana. You have to re-recruit them again, but they have the opportunity of having that. Not with all of them. The big man, I think, has 1 year left, and maybe one of the others has 1 year left. But getting guys like that where you can keep for a couple years is tremendous if you can make that happen. Getting back to Osabor, the big report that Jeff Goodman put out that he went there for $2 million. I'm finding that just so hard to believe. That number, first of all, it's Washington, and where do they pull $2 million out for a single basketball player? And why would you go that high? I mean, when my guess is that Indiana, quote unquote, paid about $800,000 for Ballo. I know he was asking for 1.2 million, and the fact that we even talk about these numbers is incredible. And it's a guess, but 2 million just seems so out of the stratosphere, because I look at someone like Zach Edey, who absolutely, without question, dominated the college game for 2 seasons, and he didn't get anything close to that. And why would you give someone who's not a Zach Edey something like that? And from a program, I know that they're coming into the Big Ten and that they need to grow, but boy, it sure seems like you're shooting your wad on a single player.
Yeah, it does. It does strike me as a high number. Without a doubt. I don't know whether these numbers are real or not. I mean, no one has to reveal them on either side, other than to the IRS, and that's a private matter between the specific taxpayer and the federal government. So I don't know whether that number is correct or not.
I used to be in the school that they should have to reveal that, but then I realized, you know what? It's like anybody else making money. It's none of anybody else's business how much they get. And so, no, I do not feel that way.
No, I mean, if he were an employee and therefore a state employee, because University of Washington is a state school, then it's possible that he would have to have his salary revealed.
And is that possible, Mike, to come through this potential settlement? That
it may come. About? Yeah, it may. Absolutely. It will be if and when that settlement is agreed to. It will be a dramatic change to college sports, without a doubt. But I still think it's going to take time for it all to work itself out. For athletes to be considered employees, or to have a collective bargaining unit or multiple collective bargaining units. I still think that it's going to take some time to work itself out. I don't think it will be immediate. But I do think that there will be some sort of revenue sharing that will be executed with college athletes. And I just think it's a really complicated issue, though. Because how do you work out who gets paid what? Obviously, the money in college football is greater than the money in men's college basketball, which is greater than the money in women's college basketball, which is greater than the money in college baseball, which is greater than the money in college softball. So it all kind of follows down a chain until you find a sport like, I think we talked about this, where rifle, I mean, like, who's watching, right? I mean, so there's probably not money. There's probably no money in that at all. No revenue. So I do think it's complicated, and I don't know what this settlement. I know this settlement is, at least the NCAA isn't signing up to get hammered in court again if the members agree to this settlement. But what exactly their future is, how this is all going to work, I still think is a really complicated answer. And those who think it's coming quickly, I think are overly optimistic.
Yeah, that brings up too, if that comes to fruition, this settlement thing, and if that means that they become employees and that their salaries have to be made known to everybody, that includes the other players. Now we might be looking at some inside strife of jealousy and things like that, because they will know. I'm not saying it's not goofy. I'm just saying
No, but we have that in professional sports. I mean, it's something that we, that to a degree we already deal with athletes getting upset because the player next to them or the player in another locker room 1,000 miles away is getting more. I just don't. I don't know that that's necessarily anything new. It's just in a different environment. We have professional leagues where Steelers wide receiver Deontay Johnson was making $20 million a year and still unhappy. Even though he wasn't making, he wasn't a Pro Bowl type player, an all pro type player, he's making $20 million a year and still found a way to be unhappy. So the Steelers traded him away. I mean, that goes on in professional sports all the time. So I don't know that that's necessarily new or something that can't be dealt with. I know that college coaches don't want to deal with it because they've never had to. But I don't know very many college coaches that turn down money, Jim. I wrote one of the impetus, one of the reasons that I felt compelled to write what I wrote a week ago or so was the fact that Georgia just gave Kirby Smart, their football coach, a $13 million contract, or raised him to $13 million. Come on, man. What are we doing here? We're complaining that a basketball player might get high six figures when we're paying a football coach $13 million because $11 million wasn't enough. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't see how you can tell me it's bad for athletes to be making money. At the same time, you feel the need to dump a $13 million truckload on Kirby Smart. Like, I'm sure that Kirby Smart can get by on 13. I'm sure he could get by on 9 or 7, but you keep raising the money for the coaches. And on the other hand, you're trying to complain that it's bad for the athletes to get paid. I just can't even deal with that.
Yeah, that's not even an argument in my mind anymore. I mean,
it's out there, Jim. It's out there.
Oh, I know. It's there are people, but I'm like, they're living in a wrong world, because it's like, well, you know what? That ship has sailed for me personally. That you can complain about that, but we've got lots more coming up, including the NCAA versus these Ivy League players, Mike. The two Ivy League players who did not get the COVID year, and they're wanting their 5th year because the Ivy League shut down. But none of those players were granted a 5th year, oddly, for some reason. And so they're trying to sue for that. We'll see. But plenty more. Mike DeCourcy from Big Ten Network, as well as Sporting News, with us. We're back with more right after this, brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those of you in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home, my car's in the shop. That was my card person calling me.
Sorry to hear that.
Hey, it's too boiled for me, guys. Actually, I do a radio show on home here. Appreciate you. Thank you. Oh, just money. Nothing, no big deal.
Oh, wow.
That's just finding out. That's just a starting price, too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I was on my way to AAU this weekend and had car trouble. And I'm like, oh, my God. Just the toll bill was $375.
I had the same thing. I when I came down to I came down when Caitlin played at IU, and I got to the exit, and my car started to shake, and so I made it to Assembly Hall, and I pulled in, and I called my wife, and I told her what happened, and I said I had to just go in, right, and do the game because I'm here. And she said, yeah, what if it breaks down on the way back and it's 1 o'clock in the morning after you're done? And I'm like, yeah, you got a point there. So I started home and I broke down and I had to get towed back to Fisher's. And then I had to end up buying a new car. So
easy. Don't put that one on me.
No. See, that was my bad luck. You're going to have the good luck.
Oh, I never have good luck with cars. Swear.
All right, here we go, guys.
Brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right. 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMoreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday. Mike DeCourcy with us from the Sporting News. Appreciate you being with us. Mike, with all this movement in players, I look at the list that some of the top players, this is ESPN, and Indiana has number 2, number 19, and number 20, and that's where I've stopped. But that's a pretty good get because nobody else has 3 of the top 20 there. But the overall haul that Indiana has made and the upgrade of their roster in the offseason seems to be one that you would give an A+ to, because all positions that they needed filled have been filled. You've got the big man in the middle from Arizona, and you add a couple of guards and Miles Rice from Washington State. Averaged 15 points a game. You've got Kanan Carlisle, who was a top 50 recruit coming out of high school, coming from Stanford. He averaged 12 points a game. And so the guard play is just what was killing Indiana last year. So they really fill that. And, that leaves them with backups like Trey Galloway, who is, to me, there's no way he's going to not move to a backup role.
Time out.
I know. Hey, that's why Mike Woodson does not give up on his starters. That's one thing. That's the only argument, is that he'll start over any of these guys.
It's not the only argument. He's got 4 years in the program. He's got 2 years as a starter. I mean, institutional knowledge, team leadership. Remember, leadership is huge in college sports. And, Trey obviously has not been a super vocal guy. I think in order to secure his position, he's going to have to morph a little bit in that direction. He's going to have to be a more vocal, more obvious leader at this stage of his career. Part of it, I think, in the past was because it wasn't necessarily his role. I think 100% that they will try to find a way for him to start.
I don't doubt that.
I just don't see how you take out a 5th-year senior out of the starting lineup, and when he's been there for the last 2 years, and expect to move forward. That's dicey. I think you have to find a way that you rotate the 3 guards, or that Trey could also get some minutes at the 3 spot. When Mbako rests, you can use Trey at 2 and 3. I think the good news is you won't have to use him at all at any point this year at the point guard. And that was a problem last year when he had to play that position because of injury and other elements. That certainly it was not his spot. It's not what he does best. But there's still a spot for someone, especially in a lineup like this where you have scorers at multiple positions. Someone's got to be a facilitator in that group. And I've always admired his ability to connect players, to get the ball from the guard to the front line and back again. He's got great ability in that area. So I am not down with that, with the idea that Trey Galloway doesn't start.
Well, and the starting or not starting, I think with Indiana doesn't have a lot of relevance. It's total minutes played. And I just don't see that not happening with guys that have much more production, because that was the one thing, although in some games he had great production, Trey Galloway, but you can't count on him as a shooter from outside. And both of these guys can shoot. Then you've also got Mr. Goody, who was brought in, who can shoot. So there's going to be a lot of competition in that area.
Oh yeah, and so that's what makes this team so exciting on paper. With a year ago, or not even a year ago, a few months ago, people were not all people, and maybe not even a majority of people, but a large percentage of IU fans were really loud about needing to change. And now you come back into this season with as much success in the transfer portal as pretty much anybody's had, if not more. And you've got a great opportunity to have a significant season.
Man, Five Left's never agrees with me. You don't know, this is like historic, but he thinks that Trey should start just because he's a 5th-year guy. He doesn't think he should.
Right.
He think if he gets beat out in shooting, he shouldn't start. And that's what my thinking is exactly. And for Five Lefts to agree with me, you don't understand. He does not ever agree with me on most things. But that's where my thinking is. It's, if you want to be an elite team, the best team, that you've got to have the best players on the floor, and whoever that is.
Do you?
I mean,
do the Pacers start with their 5 best? Do the Pacers start their 5 best players?
Well, but the Pacers are a lot deeper at every position.
Are they?
They have been. Or Indiana.
I mean, they're deeper than most NBA teams, maybe. But IU is pretty deep right now on the perimeter. We just named 4 or 5 really good college basketball players, and there's 3 spots, so that's pretty good depth.
And it depends on how Woody's going to do this. I mean, he did have the penchant for doing the hockey style rotations. Then after he caught a lot of grief over that, and because it wasn't working, he didn't have he didn't have the firepower to do that. Now he may have that. So we may see that again. I don't know. But he does have the ability to replace certain guys in a wave here. I don't think that's across the board. You don't have a guy that you can just replace Ballo with right now. That's still one of the open scholarships they haven't filled, because I don't think that's going to be Malik Renew. But yeah, I don't know what we're going to see. I'm being totally honest here. I mean, I've been doing this for more than 35 years, and I haven't seen a genuinely successful college team that didn't have significant leadership. And I don't know where that comes from, if not from Trey Galloway. That's just the nature of this team.
with you brought in 3 transfers on the perimeter. You have 2 veterans in the front court with Mbako and Renew. And then you have a transfer at center. I mean, there has to be some there has to be some continuity for it to work. And Trey represents that continuity, and that is his natural. That's his natural strength. That's his superpower, so to speak, is that he is a connecting player. I've talked about this for years. I mean, and many years, because he's been there so long. That's what he does. And I believe that he will find a way to be in the starting lineup, and that there'll be plenty of minutes for Luke Goody. There'll be plenty of minutes out there, but I just don't see how Trey Galloway doesn't start and play 25-ish minutes a game, depending. And remember, Trey Galloway's not a bad shooter. He was put in a bad spot last year with a lot of the year going by with no point guard or him being the point guard, and his percentage went down because the quality of shots went down.
Yeah, but his free throw shooting was horrible. He's 50% free throw shooter.
I'm not talking about his free throw shooting. I'm talking
I know.
If he is the player that in the position that we expect, he won't go to the line that much. If he's in the role that we expect, it won't come up that much. And yeah, he should. I think that he's gotten himself into a mental block situation, and that's impacted his free throw shooting. He needs to break through that. He shouldn't be a poor free throw shooter with the other skills that he has. So I don't think that's his natural state. He'll be a good free throw shooter again, but that's not a big concern. He won't take more than 75, 80 free throws this year if he's playing in the position we're talking about.
Right. And there should be a lot of other players that are drawing that off anyway with the talent that should be around him. And we forget that there has to be a continued improvement of Malik Renew and Mackenzie Mbako. Those two guys have to improve, and because they should be carrying the load for this team, to be honest with you. I mean, you've got Ballo there too, but those two should be carrying the load. They're the experienced players. They're the elite players. Mbako is an elite shooter. We started to see that at the end of the year last year when he started to come into it. And if he can pick up from there and keep going, then he can be a dangerous player, because I also saw him start to do some other things, get to the rim a little bit, which he did not do much of at all at the beginning of the year. He's a great free throw shooter, but they just need those knockdown shooters. Haven't had them. And if you can get him doing that and a few other guys, then that changes Indiana completely. And then you've got Ballo down there in the middle, who is obviously a proven commodity.
Yeah, I will say about Mbako, ever since Gerard Ward came out of Mississippi and went to Michigan in the mid-90s. So this is a long time. I just looked it up. Gerard Ward is 48 years old now. So this tells you how long ago I started to realize what a challenge it is for an elite small forward to transition from high school to college. It is the most difficult position to transition. It usually doesn't go smoothly. Carmelo Anthony was a rare player, and the reason he was because he could play every position on the floor. But if small forward is your spot and you were great in high school, it probably means, especially if you're built like an Mbako or a Gerard Ward, where you're taller, you've probably spent a lot of your high school career bullying guys. You just were bigger. You were 6'8", 6'7", being guarded by 6'3", 6'2". A lot of the time.
That's a Trent Sisley. That's a perfect example of Trent Sisley right now.
Yeah, and so I always give more grace to that player now since the Gerard Ward, since I noticed that with him. I always allow that player more time to transition. It's just a harder thing. Unless you're an absolute elite shooter, like we saw at Kansas a couple of years ago with Grady Dick. If you're an elite shooter, it's not as big a deal. But if you're just an okay shooter trying to become a very good one, and you spent your high school career just being more dynamic and bigger than the players you go against, it takes a while. And so, I think Mbako is a good to very good shooter who has the potential to become an excellent one. And he had a difficult transition from high school to college, but he started to get it at the end of the year, like you said. And that's important, because if he's starting to show it after he's starting to see how college defenses work against him and work around him, then he's going to figure it out in year 2. I think Mackenzie has a chance to have a special year, and that will change how IU plays offense.
Yeah, one thing that, like someone like I mentioned, Trent Sisley, he playing on his high school team, he's pretty much it. He doesn't have a lot of help on his team, so he ends up having to play out of position, playing almost basically center half the time, where he is not going to be a center at all, but he is getting great experience because he's being double and triple teamed every time, getting beaten in the face. I've seen him bust his nose when I was down there once. And now he's during the summer league, he's playing outside. He's playing where he should. He's playing on a wing, but he's also can go in and work in the paint. So I've seen him score in the paint, but he's also be able to stand out there and knock down 3-pointers. He has got a great tool bag and to work with. So that is going to be helpful for him. But yeah, he's not going to be able to shine in high school as much because of that, because he's not playing in position where he would normally play.
And he may have a bit of transition. Or who knows? Maybe he supersedes it like Carmelo did. But if he does have a difficult transition, he won't be the first. He'll just be the latest. But eventually, those guys figure it out. Most of them do. The best ones do. And I think Mackenzie's performance at the end of last year started to show that he was getting it. And remember, Mackenzie played, again, like we talked about with, like we talked about before. Mackenzie played his freshman year with almost his entire freshman year without a point guard. And so his opportunities, the quality of his opportunities was lower than it should have been, and lower than it was at the beginning of the year when Xavier Johnson was healthy, and at the end of the year when he returned. That's part of why you saw Mackenzie's performance elevate, because now he's getting better quality of opportunities. With Rice coming in from Washington State, the hope is that quality of opportunity will be there from the beginning to the end.
Last thing, what are your not expectations, thoughts, but where Indiana will end up this Big Ten? I don't have a clue about it coming up this year. I don't know who's going to be what. I know what Indiana has. I know what Purdue has because there's not much change, but I don't know what Brad Underwood's going to do with the portal. He's done a great job every year rebuilding. Wisconsin lost a lot. You've got Michigan State. I don't want to sound like a homer. It looks like Indiana has a shot to be in the top 3 without question. I don't know who the other 2 are. I'll be honest with you. But what are your expectations of what you see from this Indiana lineup that they have at the moment?
Yeah, I like what's there. I do. I think that they've addressed a lot of needs. They addressed the ball handling and the playmaking need. They addressed the shooting need with Luke Goody. They addressed the obvious hole at center, and honestly got in a lot of ways better there. I liked what they got out of that position this year. But I think Ballo gives you the opportunity to be powerful, overwhelming, because he is an excellent defender. He has offensive capabilities. He will not be a target on offense unless he makes dramatic changes in his final year. He won't be a target, but you can play through him. And that's something that a lot of places couldn't do with their big guys last year. and struggled because of it. You can play through Bala. You can throw him the ball, and the ball will continue to move. And if he's singled up, he'll score. So I like what's there. I think the promise is really exceptional for Indiana. They have depth. They have ball handling. They should have. They are not. They won't be an elite shooting team, but they don't need to be shooting averse the way they were a year ago. I do think they'll be one of the contenders for the Big Ten championship. I put Purdue in that class. I think with Maryland's transfers, they'll be in that class. I expect Rutgers to be in that class, but it'll be a challenge. They still have some roster spots to fill with the players that they lost. They obviously are bringing in two of the greatest talents in high school basketball. So I think that it'll be a very compelling race. And then UCLA as well. So when we talk, I have a feeling, Jim, when you talk about top three, you're thinking of last year's Big Ten in terms of composition.
Yes,
and
you're right. You're right.
What's coming. And so I think UCLA makes that is another team that with their transfer additions gives the possibility that it'll be really crowded in that space. But that's a good thing. If UCLA, Purdue, Rutgers, Maryland, and Indiana are all terrific, that just being in that quintet will be enough to earn a significant seed and maybe take a run at March. That's what I see when I look at IU now. I mean, obviously, we still have a lot of players in the portal, some roster spots to be filled, a lot of places. But I'm excited about next year's Big Ten. I think the entry of those four teams and the solidity of so many other teams. I mean, not even mention Michigan State, which obviously loses significant players, but maybe that's not such a bad thing. They haven't lost a lot to the portal, which is impressive. I think that says a lot about Tom Izzo in the way that the portal's one-way deal at Purdue has said about Matt Painter. So Michigan State has some guys. They need to fill in around it, but they've got some guys that can make a big leap this year.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Appreciate you, my friend. Look forward to it. Next week, we'll talk about the new Big Ten and what that might be like this year.
Always a pleasure. Look out. I have a column coming today about the NBA draft lottery and how it's become less productive in recent years, as well as tomorrow, something about the NFL schedule drop that will appear on Wednesday.
Well, that's very timely because I saw someone talking about the draft and whether or not how important the lottery its draw is anymore, or was this year at least right on this season. So, yeah, make sure you check out Mike's latest at the Sporting News, and always check him out and be a follower of Mike DeCourcy. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim.
Hey, coming up next, the great Greg Rakestraw joins us. It's the month of May, baby. And that means, gentlemen, start your engines. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Freethink Apparel and Promotions. Whether you need 24 t-shirts or for your upcoming reunion, or 200 for this season's recreational softball or baseball leagues, Freethink Apparel meets your printing needs. Their team of industry experts work with you to design a professional-looking, sales-generating web store, your very own web store, for your custom-designed apparel and promotional merchandise. From large corporations to small businesses, high school sports teams, to national accounts, Freethink Apparel delivers no matter where you are. Visit freethinkapparel.com today and get printing. We're back with Greg Rakestraw right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Good day, sir.
You got us, Greg?
Man, all of my stuff went black earlier, John. It didn't cut out.
Oh, yeah.
But my camera was my camera off?
I didn't notice it. I might have been looking away, but I didn't notice it.
It turned off. I mean, the light went out and my computer screens were all black. I could still hear everything. And I'm like, okay, this is different.
You with us, Greg? I think I hear you now.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Bringing the music, baby.
Okay. Well, you are getting me 25 minutes before a college softball game begins. I had a game get moved up to avoid the rain today. So I am coming to you live from the press box at Marian University.
Hey, tell our friend Pat Knight I said hello.
I will.
Well, we got the music in background from the press box. That's pretty cool.
You get the live experience today.
What tournament is this?
So Marian is hosting one of the 10 regionals in the NAIA national tournament. They made it to the next to last day of the season last year. So in the NAIA, they have 10 regionals for 4.
Did we lose you again, Greg?
He'll probably be bouncing in and out.
It just sounded like it clicked. Like something hung up or something. Oh, he's back.
You got me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I had you the entire time. That was weird.
Yeah, there was like a click. It sounded like you just disappeared for a second.
Huh.
Oh, they're playing 10 today. Boo. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back in. We're back in 30 seconds.
There couldn't be a
Sounds
better
good.
time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you as always. Greg Rakestraw, the man of, I've got to come up with a good title. The man that wears many, many hats will be joining us. He's out at Marian University setting up to do the national tournament, NAIA National Softball Tournament. And he'll be joining us right from the press box of that gig. While there he is, he's with us. Just talking about you, man. How are things in the press box at the Marian Softball Regional?
Dry for now. The forecast does not look good for most of the day. This is the second day of 4 days they'll have action here at Marian. They get Marian in the NAIA level. They were amongst the final 4 teams in the nation playing last year in NAIA softball. They got 2 games in yesterday, no problem. Literally, teams are on the field. They're going to have a first pitch at 10 a.m., trying to beat the heavy rain, knowing that forecast doesn't look good for the next 24 hours, starting here in the next hour or two.
Yeah, as I look down at my weather map deal here, the percentage says 100, so that's never good.
Well, the thing is that there are 2 outdoor sporting events here locally that have my attention today. Obviously, this and the first day of practice at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There are some cars already on track this morning. Again, trying to get some of the veterans some refresher laps, knowing they're probably going to lose most of the day out there. Thankfully, there are 2 key indoor sporting events for most Indianapolis sports fans today that won't be affected by rain and are both in the Northeast. Obviously, Indiana Pacers Game 5 at the New York Knicks. Not to mention, Caitlin Clark officially makes her Indiana Fever debut against the Connecticut Sun later tonight. So it may be a washout for the morning and afternoon, but there will be plenty of things for us to talk about locally in the evening from a basketball standpoint.
Oh, daggone it. I don't know if you can see that, but
not good.
That is I didn't hit the forward. Let's see if I play it.
I think it's heading right for us, Jim, is the way you can best describe that. Yes.
Well, that looks like exactly it's heading directly for you. It's going to be a ground zero hit. Just a lot of rain out there this week. But that's not good for Indy practice. Speaking of which,
correct,
that can affect that for tremendously.
You know, given the rain and the forecasting, and they've got cars on track now trying to get as much done as they can, they would probably get to a point of about 1 or 2 today and just simply say, hey, we can't get the track dry. We'll come back and do this tomorrow. Forecast is for rain tomorrow, but then clearing out, so they'll get some track time tomorrow afternoon. Thursday looks good. Friday looks iffy. Early Saturday looks iffy, but then especially on Sunday, it looks good. They really have to get 33 cars qualified out of 34 at some point in time on Saturday and Sunday. If it gets compressed a little bit, that's not exactly the end of the world. So this may not be your typical, as it's become as of late, 4 days worth of practice. And I see the comment on the screen that the track is yellow flagged right now, and it was drizzling on me on the way in. And for those that don't know, the proximity of Marion University to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, on a normal day, we would hear cars here at Marion if they were having practice, because it's really about a mile away.
I had no idea that it was basically an Indianapolis suburb.
Correct. So Marion is located at 30th and Cold Spring. If you keep going a mile west on 30th Street, you could turn left and park in the North 40. That's how close that Marion University is to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
So, and I know Marion is in Marion, but where compared to, say, Zionsville, Carmel, Lebanon, where would Marion be?
So Marion University Marion University would be next to Cardinal Ritter High School, if you know that. If you know where Riverside Park would be, where the Naval Armory is, that's where Marion is located. So we are easily within the 465 dial, as we say here in Indianapolis, Jim.
Really?
Absolutely.
I did not know that.
See, man, I'm glad I can educate you on something today.
I hate when there's stuff that I don't know. But no, I'm just kidding. I love learning things. I didn't realize Pittsburgh was that far out there.
Yes, it is. Although the suburbs have caught up to Pittsburgh at this point too. So the land of Jeff Gordon is a suburb now too.
Yeah, odd spot for him to have actually be from, but you got that going for us. But
Jim, you know the story behind that?
No.
So Jeff's from California, but Jeff moved to the Midwest knowing he would have a better chance of driving a sprint car at a younger age. So hence the next town west of Brownsburg. It's where he went to high school at Tri-West, which is why, you know, some people have, you know, a street named after them. He has an overpass named after him. When you pass underneath that exit to get to Pittsburgh on I-74, it is the Jeff Gordon overpass. I'm not sure why they felt that was the fitting tribute to him, but that's what the town council felt was the best way to recognize their famous resident only for a couple of years.
You know what should Lanesville name after you? What do they have that's famous other than the daggone Lane Heritage Festival? We call it the
Heritage Weekend.
Lanesville Heritage Weekend.
Well, thankfully it's not memorialized yet because I'm still talking to you. Walter Q. Gresham, former Secretary of State in the late 1880s. The park is named after him in Lanesville. I'm thinking if there's going to be anything named after me, it might be the wastewater treatment plant outside of town. That might be the way they would go with that.
I was going with the H&K Tavern.
Which is now known as Hogg's Tavern, by the way.
Hogg's.
Not K&H, where they the greasiest hamburgers that ever existed, and they're phenomenal. Yes, but now known as Hogg's.
And Hogg has owned that place for 20 years, probably now, I think.
At least. And that is where the bar is, where you can have the overlook that looks over the baseball field. So you have, we would call it the Redneck Camden Yards. It's now 30 years old. Its first year of existence was my senior year.
I did not know that.
I hit a home run to end the game in its first ever game at Ed Jaeger Field. But yes, there is one suite on the other side of the creek, and we do say creek and not crick in Lanesville, but that's where you can drink and smoke and watch the game, which you can't exactly do on school property.
Well, that should be the Greg Rakestraw Pavilion.
Pavilion might be too fancy. How about the Greg Rakestraw porch? How about that?
I might have to go down there and talk to Hog about that. And if you all knew Hog and could see him, you would laugh because he probably looks like the person that's in your mind. But what he does do that was not in your mind, he's one of the best tax accountants or tax people around. This guy does more tax returns than anybody. It's funny. It's a weird, not weird, but it is a unique. I'm talking about Lanesville itself. Just such a unique, great little old school, old American place. It has everything old America should have. It has the Heritage Festival in the fall in September. It's just old school, man. And they got Greg Rakestraws being from there.
At least somebody they can claim, even though I've not lived there for 30 years. They still claim me occasionally.
Indianapolis coming up. Of course, we're what, less than 2 weeks from Indy, and all of this, all of the stuff is really getting started now. Well, with them hitting the track, with of course the weather's going to play in with that this week, but that could be a big hindrance because we're expecting there's potential weather almost every day.
Correct. And so, I think right now the forecast is the best weather day is going to be Thursday. Don't be surprised if the cars are turning 100 laps or more, each individual car, trying to work on like the race setup on Thursday. Normally Fridays, when you think about qualifying, Friday weather kind of looks spotty at this point in time too. Forecast is good on Sunday, warm on Sunday. And again, a chance of showers at some point on Saturday. So frankly, there could be some teams that focus a lot less on their qualifying setup and just worry about race setup. Those that are going to be solidly in the field. There's always this push from the series, from the track to try to, break track records. They've been inching close to that record that Ari Lyondike had from 28 years ago of a qualifying speed of nearly 237 miles an hour. The weather might get in the way of that being a factor. I think this time around, it may be a little more conservative, just focusing on the race and get ready for that.
237 to average 237 miles an hour around that track. You have to be going, I don't know, 248 on the back stretch or on the stretch.
You're going 240 into the turns, and to kind of put it in perspective, 225 miles an hour gets you around the track in 40 seconds. So think about that math, 2.5 miles in 40 seconds, and then you add another 10 miles an hour or so on top of that. It happens in a hurry, Jim.
Yeah. What is the actual track surface? That was something I was looking at last year when I was there. It looks like a composite of some sort with fibers down in it so it doesn't come apart. I'm sure there's some asphalt in it, maybe. I don't know. I couldn't tell. I was really looking at it, trying to figure out what this surface actually is.
A lot of asphalt, and it's ground down and kind of diamond grooved over the years. But this is the part where you're asking a broadcaster and not an engineer. So if I say more, I could be getting in trouble.
Yeah, it's just unique. That's why, I mean, you have to have a unique surface at Indy because of the speeds and the fact that these turns are only banked 9 degrees, where in NASCAR, a lot of the tracks, you can go up to 28 degrees banking, which, well, hell, you can run all day and not worry about your car moving away from you. But when you're coming into a turn at 225 miles an hour and you have very little banking, you better have some grip.
No doubt, which is exactly how those cars are configured and set up. It's why you hear so much talk about tires at the Motor Speedway. That's the reason why.
What's up next for you, brother? I know you're out there at Marion with the softball tournament. Is that a week-long thing?
So let me give you an idea. Here's my view right here.
All right. We're getting
final warm-ups are taking place for Marion. I'll be there today. Was scheduled to have Notre Dame and Butler in baseball. That's already been bagged because of the rain. So it's softball today, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, it's Butler baseball against UConn, who's one of the better teams in the Big East. And then Sunday, I'm at the track all day long. So it's May and Indianapolis, man. There's always something to do.
Absolutely. Greg Rakestraw, give him a follow. He's got it all going on. Appreciate you, my friend.
See you, buddy.
Have a good one. That's Greg Rakestraw up at Marion University doing the NAIA softball tournament, and brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down on Anna Maria Island, Florida. If you're already in the area or will be, it's a great place to go, and they have much more than just unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers, cocktails, along with live music every day. It's family friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them we sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. We're back with more, including Chronic Hoosier, right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Good morning, Chronic.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I am doing awesome. How are you guys today?
Good.
What's new with you, brother?
Not a thing, man. Not a thing. Just limping to the end of the school year here with the kids, trying to get our summer footing.
Yeah, my daughter finished up school this week at Ole Miss.
Nice.
She is off doing studying abroad for 2 weeks in Italy, but there's no class. Not a single class. I'm like, wow. I wish I would have. They're studying, I think, wine, not pizza making, but
Pasta consumption.
Pasta stuff, all the Italian. I'm like, well, that's educational, I guess. So. But they get credit for it, and she turns 21.
Nice.
She turns 21 in Italy.
Very nice.
Today is her birthday.
Today
is her birthday. Oh my gosh!
Happy birthday! Yeah, I got my oldest is heading to Madrid and Barcelona here in a little less than 2 weeks. Except they actually have, I think, 3 hours of class a day.
Yeah, well, she went to someplace. Where the hell did she go last year? She went someplace last year, and it's kind of the same thing. But then she was alone. She didn't have anybody from her school, but it worked out. Damn. I don't even know how to reach her right now.
Yeah, we just got the international plan set up on the phone, had to get a new credit card to avoid those chargers, and gosh, it's a process just getting the prep done. I had to burn an entire day just to go up to Chicago to do her 3-minute global entry interview.
All right, here we go, guys.
Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. I hope you're having a great day. Happy birthday to my daughter, Kylie. She turns 21 today. She is somewhere over in Italy. I don't know exactly where. And I don't know exactly how to get in touch with her. I mean, I can use the phone, but I'm not sure how that's set up. How's everybody doing? Robert says his mom Carol turned 90 on Saturday. Happy birthday, Carol. Hope you're having a good one. I wish I would have been there to have some cake. Chronic Hoosier joining us now. Is it your birthday, Chronic? You got a birthday?
It's not. We still got a couple months away, but we are in the thick of my family's birthday season. I've got 3 big ones here in the next 2 weeks. So happy birthday to Kylie. Happy birthday to everybody celebrating this month. It'd be nice if I thought about that when we when we had them. Because somehow all the birthdays, all the tax bills, all the licenses, everything's due. This is a pricey month. And that's before we get into the 500 tickets this year.
Are you going to the 500?
I've only missed 4 in my entire life.
This last year was extraordinarily great. This year's Kentucky Derby, an unbelievable finish. That is something I don't think we've had for a long time. We've had all these great events, but these great finishes, a 3-horse photo finish for the Kentucky Derby. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. And then last year's Indianapolis 500 with Joseph Newgarden, that was just a spectacular finish to that race. And it's hard to get great finishes out of an Indy 500 because of the cars and whatnot, but they sure provided it. And hopefully the rain will not affect that this year with the ability to practice and getting out on the track. And the rain, Chronic, will continue to clean the track back off after the rubber's been put down.
Yeah, no, it's spring in Indiana. It's unpredictable. About the only thing that you can pretty much guarantee is there's going to be disruptions to the schedule, which just puts a premium on the team strategy as far as getting the setup dialed in. And as Greg was discussing with you earlier, there's qualifying setup and then there's race setup. And ideally you like to get them both dialed in, but when the window for track time starts to close due to Mother Nature, as is often the case in May, almost always the case in May, it really, really starts to put a premium on just resource allocation. How are you devoting that precious track time you do get, whether it be individual and groups, as far as getting your setups dialed in? Because while everybody loves the photo ops and all the pageantry that comes with quals and pole day and whatnot, at the end of the day, the goal is to be the first one across the bricks after 500 miles. So it's going to be an interesting year for sure. But it is just another year in Indiana in May where Mother Nature's always going to play a hand in kind of influencing some of the outcomes. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get up to the track before race day this year due to some of the crazy scheduling going on right now. But really looking forward to this year's trip. Going to be bummed that my daughter misses it. She's going to Spain. She'll be in the Mediterranean herself with her Bloomington South High School class. It'll be the first time since she was 3 that she's missed race days. So bummed to miss her, but excited to go up there with my dad and my son and another year with 3 generations at the track. It's what we love. It's a tradition that I deeply, deeply cherish, and looking forward to it. Hoping to see a very fast and more than anything, a safe race for everybody involved.
Yeah, it is a tradition for a lot of Indiana families. And there are a lot that it's not, and they don't understand that. Even Indiana people that don't understand the deep affiliation for a lot of families. It is just, I don't know if the TV blackout has caused part of that, but this goes deep. I mean, most people you talk to, I've been to 40 straight, or I've been going since this, whatever. And it's amazing to see those runs continue and that desire to continue.
It's one of those cultural events that's really central to Hoosier identity, and no different than the Kentucky Derby. And I got some grief for calling the Derby Amish NASCAR. and very much offended some and not just
I thought it was
Kentuckians.
funny.
There were some Indiana residents that took a little offense to that, but it's it for me. I grew up around motorsports. I had family that raced. Grew up in Indianapolis, so we were always at close proximity to the track. It's something that my dad's very passionate about still to this day. I'd probably be a driver myself, but for the fact that my dreams of playing soccer led me to Culver Military and got me away from the Indiana dirt tracks during those formative years when I just started driving. But it's something that I've always enjoyed, something that we've always done together, and really fortunate that my kids have played along and joined those trips with us. And it's just one of those things that it marks the seasons for my family. No differently than on Friday night when you hear the rumble coming from Bloomington Speedway. It's officially racing season in Indiana, and the 500 is at least in the IndyCar series. It's clearly the crown jewel of the series, but it's also one of the lead off events that really gets the season going for them. And being in proximity to that, being a part of that, or at least having that ingrained in your childhood, in your life, and your adulthood, it's just one of those things that becomes tradition. And no differently with Kentucky and their love of horses and all that. And I do respect the heck out of that. I'm a horseman myself. I kid when I joke with them. And it was a phenomenal finish. It's just a difference of opinions, difference of taste, I suppose. I like the speed, I like the danger, and I certainly appreciate the speed and the danger involved in thoroughbred racing. But Indiana's traditions, while we certainly have a strong and vibrant horse community, I think what's so integral here is Indiana has a long tradition in the automotive industry, and particularly motorsports. There's hardly anything that's got a motor and wheels that Hoosiers won't race. I mean, everything from lawnmowers to tractors to big rigs, you name it. If you can drive it, Hoosiers are going to race it. And for open wheel racing, it really is, short of F1 and all the technology they allow there, the IndyCar series is up at the pinnacle of it. So when you grow up around dirt tracks and you see, sprint cars and late models and everything else, and get to watch those guys graduate through the different series and make their way up to the top, it's something that everybody has some connection to for the most part that's into this. So it's always cool to see. I've reached the age now where my favorite racers' kids are racing now, or their kids' even for that matter. So it's a pretty cool thing. And like I said, I'm addicted to speed. I always have been. It's something that's in Hoosier's DNA. My dad always said we got 2 R genes, or chromosomes rather, racing and round ball, and it's just what we do. But I think a lot of folks forget the racing's really first. Honestly, we've been doing that a lot longer than we've been playing basketball. But it's just as deeply ingrained in our culture. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting up to the track, because even for folks that aren't necessarily into the competitive aspect of it, it's one of the greatest spectacles and people watching on earth. It's like Vegas and Mardi Gras all rolled up into one event, and it's just, for the money, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, and just an incredible sporting. It's the biggest sporting event in the world.
The largest single spectator sporting event in the world.
To be able to say that is incredible, crazy, as a matter of fact. And there's nothing that comes close. What even comes close to this? I mean, we're 330,000 people. What the hell? There's not even a place that can hold. Is there a place? Let's see. What does Daytona? What is their maximum that they can hold? Can they hold 250?
No, I'm not so sure. It's the.
I don't think so either. I'm like, I've just thought of that. I'm like, you know what? Who's even close? It's certainly not the 10 gyms that are in Indiana that are the top for certain. But yeah, it's magical that you have a place that can even hold that many people, and there could be more seats if they wanted them to be. It's blank from the end of turn 2 to the beginning of turn 3 from a spectator standpoint. But
Daytona
you still have
tops
people.
at 125.
Wow. Plus the infield. But that's wow.
Yeah, and Indy, in prior configurations was upwards of 500,000 back before they reconfigured the infield. They used to pack them in every nook and cranny available, and they had a lot more bleacher seating back in the day in the infield as well. Before all the new changes, whether it be the relocation of the snake pit, the dirt track that they put in turn 3, the new snake pit configuration. I mean, there's a concert ground taking place inside the race grounds that's almost completely independent of the race. Like you're not going to the snake pit to see the race. You're going there for a concert, and it all happens.
And you have half a golf course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. And a lake. And do they have a lake in there? I can't.
There's some water inside there too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. That's so that gives you an idea of the size.
And a road course and a museum and a dang heliport. It's bonkers. You could fit. I don't know about the new expanded Big Ten, but I did a Google Earth comparison several years ago after the Big Ten switched to 14. You could fit every Big Ten football stadium inside the track in the infield.
Wow. That's saying something.
The shoe, the big house, Happy Valley, you name it. You can put the entire league's football stadiums, not just the fields, the entire stadiums inside the infield, and they would fit in that area. It's one of those things that until you've seen it, until you've experienced it, most folks can never comprehend just the scale, the magnitude of the place. And then to see the speedway and the city and all the coordinating agencies pull that off. You're talking about basically forming and dissipating one of the 10 largest cities in the state in the matter of one day. Just the logistics involved with that are mind-boggling, honestly.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then try driving into the track an hour before start and see just what those logistics look like if you don't have a clear plan.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's coming up and it'll be fun. It is the month of May in Indiana, and that belongs to Indy. Now, we do have the PGA also going on. Think about this. We started the month with the Kentucky Derby in Louisville. Then we've got the PGA this week that is also in Louisville at Valhalla. And then we end the month with the Indianapolis 500. So two of the absolutely the largest sporting event going on. The Derby is up there as well. And then you add the PGA. We'll in the month of May, 3 of the biggest sporting events in the world happen within 100 miles of us.
Yeah, it's the Midwest time to shine, no doubt. And as we saw during the Derby, though, it's also one of those things that's kind of wild. Is it's some of the most unpredictable weather seasons as well. And as I've got some coworkers that are heading down to Valhalla this Friday, and they are anxiously monitoring the radar right now just to see if they're even going to get to watch any golf, if they're just going to drink in a tent all day. But it's one of those where you forget, in this day and age of, Uber produced and choreographed events that are so many controllable elements. Oftentimes when it comes to racing, especially with the Derby and the 500, how much weather really plays an effect on the outcomes. And it's just one of those things that's just another wild card into the deck. And obviously with golf, everybody knows how that can affect conditions, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out here this month, because it looks like it may be a little bit dicey here for the next couple of weeks, according to the weathermen.
Yeah, Indiana fans. Earlier I was talking with Mike DeCourcy about Indiana and their hopes for the upcoming basketball season in the Big Ten, and I do forget that I've got to think about UCLA, USC, and those teams coming in as well. because you're already trying to figure out, well, who the hell's going to be at the top? Because normally in most years, you pretty much have a good idea. Last year, we knew that Purdue, what they were going to be number one. We knew that Illinois was going to be right there with them, and some other teams. This year, I'm like going, I'm not so sure. I don't know. I'm not as high on Purdue as everybody else is. I know that a lot of people think that they're still going to be strong, with not like they were, but super strong because they've got some starters coming back. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know so much. You don't have the guy that just dominated the game, and that's going to make a huge difference. But we'll see. They do have those starters back. Indiana, of course, has reloaded and has as good a shot as anybody at being at or near the top of the conference next year, at least on paper. UCLA, they've got a good roster put together as well. Rutgers, an incredible recruiting class without question. And then Mike was high on Maryland, what they have brought in. But they haven't been much the last couple of years. We shall see what's Michigan State going to do. How is Brad Underwood going to replace what he's replaced, although he's done a remarkable job year in, year out doing that. So I think this is going to be an extraordinarily interesting year in the Big Ten for basketball.
No doubt. And I think this is one of those years, and I think it's going to be the case for some time going forward now too, where, as we saw last year, a lot of the projections ended up falling. Obviously everybody kind of knew Purdue was going to be at the top of the class. But everything below that, short of Illinois, really went askew. And I think the big X factor in today's day and age of basketball is just going to be, with so much movement, so much fluidity in the rosters. What looks great on paper doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate great onto the court once you throw the guys into the mix together. Just the importance of getting the chemistry right, of getting the pieces, the fits right, as far as roster construction, because it's just too many examples. Look at Michigan and Ohio State last year, Indiana for that matter. Indiana pretty much fell where everybody predicted they would, but just what a wild ride it took to get there. In the second half of the conference season. It's just going to be really, really difficult to predict teams like Indiana, but also look at this year's Ohio State. I mean, on paper, they look like they should be an absolute terror, but that's assuming that they can get it to work, that the chemistry is good. So I have always been highly skeptical of, when you've got rankings coming out, bracketology coming out before they've even begun summer workouts. I know I get the content business. I know you got to drive the clicks, but come on. I mean, it's just so beyond the realm of what's even remotely reliable at this point. Now, obviously, there's some teams that you can look at and say, well, they should be really good just based off what's proven. There's some teams that you can look at and say, well, they kind of look like dog crap. Honestly, there's nobody there worth a squat. But I really have zero confidence in any of that right now, until you at least lay eyes on them, until you see how that translates onto the floor. I will put that caveat every time I talk about Indiana next year, but also every other team at this point. It looks like it should be a potent mix, but this is where those coaches got to earn those big bucks. Because as I've said many times before, there's a reason Kentucky doesn't win the title every single year they play. You can have the most talent in the country. You got to get the mix right. You got to make it work. You got to have guys that are bought in and pulling in the same direction. And that's truly the challenge for every team. But especially now in this day and age of the portal, with so much change across the board in roster construction, you've got to have it right. You've just got to have it right. and you've got to get guys, honestly, you got to get them together as quick as possible. I know a lot of folks, whether it be eligibility requirements, have to stay where they're currently at in order to finish some credit hours, in order to get grades up, what have you. That just delays their arrival on campus. But with chemistry being so paramount right now, I think the sooner you can get them together, the sooner you can get open gyms going, the sooner you can get everybody healthy. Let's not forget one of our returning captains, Trey Galloway. I don't believe is even cleared to play right now, coming off his surgery or his procedure. So, you've got to get the guys available. You got to get them together, and you got to let them figure it out, because there is no substitute. No matter how deft you are in the portal, there's no substitute for just getting some sets together, getting reps in, and getting them up and down the floor together to really figure out how it's going to flow. So, looking forward to seeing it. I wish there were some exhibition opportunities, but those seem to have, gone the way of the modern day. I used to have the barnstorming tours and whatnot, where you could go get an early look during the summer and see some open gym run. But I'm excited to see. What the configuration looks like when we do get to see him come Hoosier hysteria.
Well, a big question I was talking to Mike about as well is I'm not sure that, although I know that Mike Woodson has had a penchant for sticking with his guys, but with what has been brought in, not that it really matters, I guess, but does Trey Galloway start on this team next year?
I think one is going to depend on where he is in his recovery and how much.
Well, right. I mean, that aside, let's, of course,
but part of that's like when he's cleared, because he's going to have to. I think Galloway probably heads into the season with as much trust, if not more, than anybody else in the roster when it comes to Woody. And I think Woody is a very big guy on his gut and who he trusts in certain situations. And I think Galloway has clearly earned that trust. There's a reason he was a captain last year. He's Woody's dude on this team, and I have no doubt that he will continue to trust him. It's whether he has enough runway to get himself healthy and integrated in this new system. The thing is, though, if Trey's ends up coming off the bench, it's likely going to be to a new guy, and it's likely to be because it was unmistakably the right move to make based off their performance behind closed doors in Cook Hall. So if you see Galloway as a reserve to start, I think that's probably an indicator that we're in a much better place than where some folks would believe them to be at this point. All that said, though, I think in addition to the talent that's been added this year, I think just as important is the depth of talent. Because if you've got Galloway coming off the bench in whatever role, and I think that's going to be fascinating to see, is he back to a 2-guard spot? Do you see him run some point? Do we go a little bit to a more amorphous setup where you've got multiple ball handlers on the floor? It's just going to give Woodson a lot more dynamic lineups, I think, having the depth of talent available to him, assuming that they're able to find somebody to fill in that backup big spot, because right now that seems to be the thin spot on the roster. But when it comes to guards, Woody's got those in spades. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that minutes distribution breaks down. But more than anything, I think the end result of that is higher competition in practice. It's the old adage, it's cliche as all get out, but it's true. Iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
When you've got better players available for practice, you're going to have better workouts for everybody on the floor, and hopefully better basketball once the ball gets tipped and the horn sounds. So,
and I keep forgetting about Ja'Kai Newton.
Yeah, everybody has. Everybody
has. Keep forgetting about. I'm like going, oh, dang it! You're talking about all these other guys, and I forget about Ja'Kai Newton. Which he may not. We don't know, but he could be a gigantic surprise for that team.
The thing that I keep mentioning when it comes to him, not many folks are talking about Gabe Cupps. Hardly nobody is talking about Ja'Kai in these conversations. And, Cupps was never supposed to play the role that he did last year. He stepped up. He took some lumps. but he figured it out, and I feel like he got better. But the plan has always been to let him grow and mature, kind of in an understudy role. But no differently, Ja'Kai Newton sat in on every single practice this year. He sat in on every single film session. He has a year of Indiana basketball under his belt, albeit just no playing time recorded. But I think the advantage that gives him going into year two, if he's healthy, he's familiar with the routine. He's familiar with the playbook. He's familiar with the nuances and the tendencies of his teammates. All those little things that experience gives you. He has all of that, but for the game experience. And, on top of that, he's probably compounded his motivation by being sidelined this whole time, not being able to participate. You saw him increasingly in pregame shoot arounds as he was progressing through his recovery, getting shots up, wearing the jersey. Later, towards the end of the season, wearing the candy stripes. I looked at him and just saw, AJ Moye's body in a guard size package, but just biting at the bit to get out there. And I don't think you can underestimate how important a little bit more toughness in the backcourt could be beneficial to this team. And he looks like one tough son of a gun. I'll say that much, man. He is thick like a brick.
We'll certainly see it. Chronic, thank you so much as always.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
As always, my friend. Hey, don't forget, enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork Chef curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Order online and let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code radio20 for $20 off your first order. I know somebody has ordered on there. Let me know how that went. And if you do, let me know. Appreciate you. But definitely support those who support us. Please. It helps. Otherwise, we don't have them and we can't bring the content to you. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the Yeah, it's going to rain. It's going to rain. It's going to rain. There you go. Well, he has to be. He's going to have to be to get some playing time with all those guys out there. But he certainly looks like he could be. Oh, boy.
right, we'll have about 5 minutes here to wrap it up.
Largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Appreciate you being with us here today on this edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Big thanks to Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, and make sure you follow up and check out his content that he has out. Greg Rakestraw as well. That with the ISC Sports Network, they've got college softball going on, and don't forget the College World Series is about to start. Well, not the World Series, the tournament. 4 Big Ten teams in there, including Indiana, making it back-to-back years, and that's including when they lost. I forget that girl's name, but she was like the stuff. Freshman led the nation in homers and all that. Where did she end up? Oklahoma State, something like that. Shame, but the fact that they were able to continue without that, big shout out to their staff, Shonda, Coach Shonda, for that's doing well. So congratulations to them. Justin thinks he's going to Indiana get ready for some small ball. We'll see. I don't know about that. Oh, you talk about the Pacers. How about the Pacers? Tied the series at 2 games apiece as it heads back to New York. And man, OG Anunoby out. I think, is he out for the next game already? I can't remember if I saw that or not, but boy, the Pacers have a shot at this. But the thing is, they have to win a road game. And I'm going to say that road game needs to be this next one, because winning a game 7 in New York would be extraordinarily difficult. New York would be just up unless Indiana can wear them out, as they kind of have been with their up-tempo style. But right now, it's a 2-2 tie. Is the next game tonight at 8? John Boy?
It is, yes, in New York.
Yeah. So 8:00 tonight, man. Boy, they need to win this game. They really, really do. Because, well, they have to win one of them. And like I said, winning a game 7 in New York, that is going to be, they're all tough. It's all hard. And the games that were in New York were close. But just like the games in all of these games have been close except for the last one. Then they won pretty big, but they need to hope that they can keep stretching New York out, wearing them out of that up tempo, keep them moving. And take advantage of them not being completely healthy. I mean, I see some things asking, is game 5 a must win for the Knicks? Well, of course it is. Hell yeah, it is, because they have to win 2 more. And winning in Indy is not good. Fun day, as always. Appreciate everybody. Chronic Hoosier, Greg Rakestraw, like I said, Mike DeCourcy. Tomorrow on the program, as usual, unless things have changed, John. Dylan Sin,
not that I'm aware of,
from Fort Wayne Journal Gazette, will join us. We'll talk more
Big Ten action, see what's going on. Kyle Nenrip will check in as we get closer to All-Star happenings. Basketball, the first week of June is when everything goes on there. I'm telling you, the juniors versus the seniors game, I am really going to be interested in this year. If they had Malachi Moreno,
wrap it
I
up.
think it might be over. We'll be back tomorrow to do it again. I cannot thank each and every one of you guys enough so much for being here. We're back tomorrow to do it again. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat.